We have systems that monitor them and automatically adjust course depending on what's happening. Who figured all that out? We did. We're not the next thing from the apes. There's no middle ground between us and the apes. We figured this out. Nothing else comes close to this. Look at the bottom one, ones and zeros. How many of you have one of these in your pocket? Billions of ones and zeros is all this is doing. And we figured out how to take that and make sense of it on a screen that we can look at. We can FaceTime, we can Skype, we get news instantly, stock quotes, emails, you name it, it's on there. You name it and the app is on there. Ones and zeros. My dogs aren't even aware of ones and zeros. Are your dogs aware of ones and zeros? I think dogs are great. I really do. You know, my dogs are enough evidence for me of God. I don't need anything more than my dogs. I think they're great. But God's given us infinitely more evidence in us than anything else in God's creation. Not because of our bodies, because of the stuff that we do. Because we're created in His creative image. That's how I look at it. And I think in His image can mean all the other stuff we talked about. Intelligence, reason, moral code, and all that. But we're created in His creative image. We're the only thing that creates. We're the only thing that makes something that didn't exist before. Nothing else does that. Birds build nests. That same species of bird builds the same nest every time. It's programmed in. There's no architectural prints. There's no tweaks in the design. There's no improvements. It's the same every time. We are constantly tweaking everything. Let's keep going. In the area of technology, I want you to look at this. In the Old Testament, we have some genealogy. You've got Adam, Cain, Enoch, Irad, Mehujael, Methuselah, and Lamech. 7 men. In the book of Genesis, it tells us about Lamech's son. So this is the 8th generation of man. It's Adam plus 7. 7 additional generations after Adam. Look at the words in white. Lamech had 3 sons. One was the first of those who raise livestock and live in tents. The first livestock rancher. 8 generations in. We already have specialties. We already have divisions. We already have expertise. We have a guy now who's the first expert on livestock. How cool is that? 8 generations in, we're already figuring out, I was meant to do this. I'm good. I can breed animals. I can take care of them. They thrive when I do that. 8 generations in, we have the first of all who play the harp and the flute, music. What a gift from God. 8 generations in, someone's already figured out a wind instrument and a string instrument. And we have a specialist. We have the first band director. 8 generations in. We also have 8 generations in the first expert in forging tools of bronze and iron, the first metal worker, the first guy with expertise in metallurgy. As unscientific as it was then, you have an expert. You have someone who got really good at that. Doesn't know about livestock, doesn't know about music, he knows about metalworking. 8 generations in, didn't take us long. Architecture and engineering. Look on the left side, about halfway down. We bring light into a building, we bring water in, and we keep water out. How important is water to us? It's really important. How devastating is water where we don't want it? It's really bad. We figured out how to bring it in where we need it, into the bathroom and the kitchen, and we figured out how to keep it out where we don't want it, which is pretty much everywhere else. We figure out roofing systems. We figured out how to seal up the building, how to make the foundation so that water runs away, and how to grade the land so water runs away and doesn't run into the house or any building. We figured that out. We dig foundations. Look on the right side. In engineering, we fly in the air. We defeat gravity. We explore space. We monitor the ground. Anyone have an earthquake app? It tells you when there's an earthquake anywhere around the world. Unbelievable. They happen all the time. I had no idea they happened that often. Get an earthquake app. It'll scare you to death. We measure earthquakes. We find oil. We drill and find oil and water miles below the surface. We put roots down a building to ensure that they're stable. We go way, way, way down. We dispose of waste. We build amazing factories, and we make things ever taller and longer. Are we dominating the earth? Do you see how we make things much larger than us? We're the only thing that makes things way, way, way bigger than us. Nothing else does that. Nothing else makes things at all. But how much cooler is it that we make things that are giant compared to us? We figured out how to put all that together. Number 8, commerce. This is my business. We travel, we harvest, we process, we market. we sell things, we package them. We bank and invest and make calculations for all that we lend and borrow. We import and export. From eons ago, we ship goods all over the world. We trade with barter, or at the bottom, we develop money and monetary systems as a way to equalize how we're trading back and forth. We compete with each other, and we earn somebody's business. Not everywhere in the world, but here we do. Commerce, the whole area of commerce, exploration and travel. Through history, we've always explored. On foot, by donkey, on horseback, by horse-drawn coach, by automobile. Look at all the stuff we've come up with. Boats, ships, trains, zeppelins. That wasn't a great idea, but we tried it. Blimps, helicopters, jet airplanes, rockets. We go way underwater. We figured out how to make the calculations to keep a submarine from caving in on itself under tremendous pressure under the water. Then we figured out how to make a nuclear sub so it could stay underwater and not be detected and be real quiet for months at a time. The stuff we do is amazing. Zip line, how about that? We've even come up with that recently. That's fun. We travel however we can at the time. Does anything else do anything like this? Anything else in God's creation do anything like this, remotely like this? Say it with me. Seriously? We're just the next thing from the apes? They tell me my DNA is 99% like the apes. You know what? I don't care. It's not enough. It's not the DNA. That's not the issue. It's what we do. It's whose image we're created in that allows us to do all this cool stuff, because nothing else comes anywhere close to this. And everything else God created is also really cool. It's all really cool. You with me? All the pictures of stuff we looked at, they're all cool. But what's the coolest thing? We are. We're the coolest thing. Remember, we're not God, we're not little g gods, but we're really cool. We are really cool. All of you are really cool. Human performance and competitive spirit. In every way conceivable. Olympics, every sport, diving, gymnastics, horse, all of them have best practices. All of them have coaches. They all have experts. They all have research. They all have journals. They all have sports reporting and coverage. Even on the right side, board games. When we get together with family, we play board games, card games. Little kids play hopscotch and duck, duck, goose. We start at 3 years old with this stuff, and we love it. We love getting together and having the connection and the camaraderie of playing games and any kind of competition. I'll race you to the mailbox, whatever it is. We're constantly competing. Number 11, music. How many of you love music? Music is a bona fide gift from God. I just happen to understand how frequencies work and octaves and notes and things like that. Can we change the way frequencies and musical notes work? Do we have any control over those? No. They're hardwired in there. Middle C is always going to sound like middle C because God has set that up. But look what we do with it. Within the confines God's given us, look at the stuff we do. Look at the musical instruments, the wind instruments, the brass instruments, the stringed instruments, percussion, keyboards. Look at the different styles on the left and on the right. We come up with melody. We come up with bass, one of the most underappreciated parts of music to lots of people. Seriously, the bass is critical to the chord that you hear. It defines the chord. Chords and rhythm and all the instruments we come up with, arrangements. You know, a symphony orchestra, somebody has to write every part. If there's 80 instruments, someone has to write 80 pieces of music. Every measure, every beat has to be scored. We do that. Do your dogs do that? Every once in a while, I'm walking the dogs outside at night and I hear what I call a dog symphony. It's a bunch of dogs howling. They sound anything like that? They have a top 40 dog chart. Oh, the schnauzers are on their way up this week. No such thing. We do that. Nothing else does this stuff. And we love to pay homage to God in our music. We love worship music, right? We love to sing to the Lord God Almighty. Number 12, the arts. This is an area truly that I think I underappreciated for a long time. And today, I look at stuff, even artwork I don't like. It doesn't matter that I like it or I don't, because what it shows about our creativity is infinitely amazing. Look at all the stuff up here: painting, watercolor, charcoal, pencil, ink, sketches, diagrams, photos, sculpture, sand art. Anyone see the YouTube things where they've got the light table and they're making stuff on the sand? It's unbelievable. That's a fairly new thing in our creativity. Performance dance, couples dance, moonwalking. How do they do that? Plays and skits, movies and film. I love movies. Anyone else love movies? My wife and I love movies. I want to tell you something about the connection between movies and music. Anyone else cry at movies? If you guys promise never to tell anyone, I'll tell you, I cry all the time at movies. I'm a basket case if the movie is a good tearjerker type movie. You know what really does it? It's not just the plot, it's the music. If you'll think about the really good tearjerker movies, it's always the combination of the music and what's happening on the screen. It's the plot and the music. Clint Eastwood did American Sniper. I should have cried in that movie. I did once. The reason I didn't cry a whole lot more, he chose to make it with no music. If you ever watch that movie again, American Sniper, it's very unusual because there's no music in the whole film. And Clint Eastwood purposely chose to do it that way. So I don't cry in it except for one scene. I should, because of the nature of the movie. I don't, because there's no music yanking my chain, basically. YouTube. How about tattoos and piercings? As far as you know, I don't have any tattoos. I'm not saying I do, I'm not saying I don't. Actually, I don't, and I probably never will. But you know what? The fact that we do that, is that not cool? I'm not saying I appreciate someone with tattoos from head to toe, but does anything else in creation do tattoos? Does your dog have a tattoo? Do whales do tattoos underwater on each other? Hippos, do they make tattoos? Cats, you name it. Nothing else, they don't think of it. It doesn't occur to them. It occurs to us. Piercings. I don't have any piercings either, I'll just tell you that. We think of that. Nothing else thinks of anything like that. The fact that people do that stuff is amazing. It puts us not in the next notch up on the belt, it puts us in a whole separate class from everything else under the sun that God's created. 13, clothing. How many of you, if you look down right now, if you just looked down right now and realized you had no clothes on, what would you think? What would your reaction be? Yeah, who said that? Ah, that's right, Jerry. Ah! If you saw me up here, you'd all go, ah! Right? Why don't we wear clothes? Right? The evolutionists want to say, well, it's because of the weather, because it gets cold. Has it been cold here for the last 3 months? There's no good reason for us to wear clothing in Tulsa, Oklahoma in June, July, August, or September. We shouldn't wear clothes. If that's the deal, we just shouldn't have them on. Does your dog think anything of clothing? No. He'll lay out in the living room in all his glory. He doesn't care about clothes. He has no modesty. He doesn't understand it. Let me show you something about clothing. We wear clothes in every culture. We wear something to cover up the most private of our parts in every culture. Something, even if it's really small. Nothing else in creation wears clothes. Nothing. Nothing else thinks about it. Why do we? It lines up perfectly with this. Before the fall, in Genesis chapter 2, Adam and his wife were both naked, and they felt no shame. This is a big deal to God. They were naked, and they felt no shame. They didn't even know they were naked. After sin, what happened? They ate the fruit, and it says they realized they were naked, and they sewed and made coverings for themselves. And God said to them, who told you were naked? It's a result of sin. My dog's not aware of sin. He'll just lay wherever. Not me. I'm not running around like that. I could put a sweater on my dog. He'll be okay with that, but it doesn't occur to him. He doesn't think it's important. The fact that we wear clothes lines up perfectly with Genesis 14. This is one of my favorites. Scheming, conniving, and ne'er-do-wellery. That's a word I made up just for this presentation. Look at what we do. Now, I'm not endorsing any of this stuff, but are we creative? When we're up to no good, are we creative? We are super creative. Look what we do. We lie, we swindle, we cheat, we gain someone's confidence, and then we rip them off. We steal from them, we conspire together, we blackmail or we bribe, sort of two opposite ends of the coin. We extort money from somebody, we embezzle, like we're sneaking money out, we vandalize stuff, we murder, we stalk, we terrorize, we ambush, and we disguise and we cover our tracks. We frame people. We leave evidence that's pre-programmed to point to somebody else besides us. Does anything else think about that? Does your dog ever get into the trash can? Do they make any effort to cover up their tracks? Does one dog frame the other dog? Say, he did it. It wasn't me, boss. Nothing else thinks of this. It doesn't occur to anything else. We do this stuff uniquely. I'm not endorsing this stuff, but look at the creativity. Even when we twist God's purpose for us, we're uber creative in everything that we do. We even escape. We'll cover up our tracks, and then we figure out how to escape from jail. Some of the most elaborate human schemes have to do with escaping from captivity. Even in these things, we are amazingly, amazingly creative. Number 15, justice. Who done it? It figures if people are going to mess around and be ne'er-do-wells and cause crimes and all that sort of thing, we want to know who done it. So we develop elaborate sciences and methods to apprehend and gather evidence. Look at all the stuff we do with this. We find clues. We do detective work. We cordon off the crime scene, right? We won't let anyone contaminate it so we can gather bona fide evidence about it. We do forensic analysis. We examine dead bodies to figure out what really happened. We gather evidence carefully. We set standards for all this. We give rights to the people we're going to accuse, and we have procedures for showing the evidence that we've gathered in court. We arrest, and I'm talking about Western society here, but every society has some version of this. Every society has some version of who done it and bringing someone to justice. We have courtrooms and judges and juries. We swear people in. What do they swear in on? The Bible so far. We give testimony. We show exhibits that have been gathered according to these proper rules of evidence. We make our arguments, and then there's deliberations and verdicts, and there's sentences, freedom or punishment. Does anything else in creation do anything like this? Say it with me again. I keep forgetting to say it. Say it with me again. Seriously? Come on. We're just the next thing from the apes, and we do all this stuff? We're all wearing clothes? 16, government, politics, and order. Again, maybe mostly Western or developing countries. There's lots of tribal areas and dictatorships and things, but look at all these systems. Candidates, debates. We take positions on things. We give interviews. We hold elections. We count. We recount. How many of you lived through all that a few years ago? But it's a sense of propriety in the process. If we're not sure, we go back and we recount everything. We want to get it right. Results. In this country, we have a very orderly vacating and taking of office, even if the two sides have been vehemently in disagreement leading up. One respectfully leaves the office and the other one comes in. Not everywhere. We have dictatorships and monarchies too in different places, but every place has some sort of social welfare, some sort of military, some sort of regulation and social order, and some sort of legislative body, even if it's the monarch, even if it's a king. We have structure to all this stuff. So we're going to move from there. These are sort of disciplines. These next few items with the letters on them are sort of overarching. These span across all the things we've talked about. All these other subjects, all these other specialties have these things. We communicate. We can't help ourselves. We have to communicate. Used to be by messenger and smoke signal, or we give a lantern signal. Then we had the Pony Express mail. Anyone remember airmail? You paid a little extra to send a letter by airmail? I'm dating myself. Come on, someone raise your hand. Help me. Okay, thank you. There's a whole bunch of you who remember that. Telegraph. Telephone, text message. Now we have cell phones. We have Skype and FaceTime. We have secure phone lines between leaders of important countries to make sure that it's really that guy on the phone. Secret code, code breakers, and secret code are just invaluable in military strategy. We communicate across languages, time zones, and across cultures. And now we communicate using shared electronic files and things like Dropbox and OneDrive, and we share the good news. That's C. D, news. We can't get enough news. First, we had the local paper. Then we had the wire services where you could get some story from around the world in a few hours after it happened. Then we had radio. Then we had television news. Then we had news on the computer. How do most of us get our news now? On one of those, just like I've got in my pocket, just like you've got in your pocket. We get all kinds of news on that, ones and zeros, bringing us news and pictures, color pictures instantly from around the world. Facebook, instant images from around the world. Whatever you want to see, it's out there, and you can get it right on your phone, right from in your pocket. I want you to look again. This is from the book of Job again. I know there's a lot of text up here, but I'm going to narrow it down real fast. In chapter 1, verses 13 through 19, 4 messengers come to see Job. Here's what I want you to see. Focus on the white letters that are underlined. The first messenger comes to Job, and he delivers a message of some catastrophe. But at the end, he says, I'm the only one who escaped to tell you. What that tells you is all of the other people that were working on that were killed. He's the only one that got out. What did he do? Did he run away? No, he ran to his boss because he had important, urgent news that the boss needed to hear. He got out with his life, barely. He's the only one that got out, and he ran to the boss. The second one says the same thing. Another messenger comes. He says at the end, I'm the only one who's escaped to tell you. The third one says the same thing, and the fourth one the same thing. They come from 4 different areas, 4 different parts of Job's business enterprises and his family to bring news of catastrophe. But what do they do when they escape this calamity? They don't run off. They come to the boss and they tell him, because we understand the urgency of news. We want to know what the news is, and we want to tell someone what the news is. Does your dog have any news? Mine doesn't. No news at all. Oh my gosh, history. We record everything. This is so important. This is such an important thing that we do, and it's going to tie in with one here in a couple of minutes. From beginning of time, we've painted on stone, we've chiseled stone, we've written it on leather, papyrus, paper. We write letters, we write books, we write magazines. We capture stuff in museums, and we explain what it's about. We put it together in libraries. We put it in electronic computer files, computer backups. You can see all this. We are driven to record everything that's happened so that nobody has to wonder what happened yesterday or 2,000 years ago. It's all there. It's all there to be found. And a number of people over the millennia have been driven to record books that have become our Holy Scriptures. F, organizing. Look at this. In militaries numbering millions of people, we're very organized. Would a military function without organization? Would it function without very strong structure and a command and I give an order and you're going to follow it? It wouldn't work that way. Does anything else in creation come close to that? Right? Even geese flying don't really do anything like that. They fly in an order and there's a leader, but not like that. In businesses, we have dozens or hundreds of thousands of people in the largest businesses. We organize and share information. We alphabetize and index it. Now we have online search engines where you can find it like that. We collaborate and brainstorm. But even before the online search engines, we had ways of doing all these things, right? There was the state of the art in that time because we've always been driven to do this stuff. We collaborate and we compete. Competing makes us all better. It makes us race. It's the same thing as the race to the mailbox. We're competing to be the first one to bring a product out or to make an improvement to a product. It improves everything. Sometimes we collaborate professionally. Sometimes we're not collaborating at all. We're racing to be the first one there. We recognize and protect intellectual property. So we give people a structure in which they can invent something and own it for a long enough time to make it worth their while to spend the money and the time and the effort and the energy to put it together. We employ and we reward and we provide authority structures. Does anything else do anything like this? You know, even a pack of wolves when it's hunting, you got, 5, 10 of them. The largest herd of animals doesn't come close to this. Everybody with me, or do I need medication? You guys with me? We are so different. We are so much further along. I should go this way, to the right. We are so much further along than anything else God's created, and it's because He's made us that way. God has made us that way. G, precision, standards, and state-of-the-art. We set design standards. We have state-of-the-art. We have a trade association or a professional association for everything. Even in medicine or engineering, or business, we have trade associations for disciplines within those things. We allow patent protection. We continually make things more precise. We check and double check and triple check, and we keep replicating experiments to make sure that what we thought still holds true. We measure, we compete, we improve. We publish, we expose things that are wrong. Someone will do research and say, I didn't get that conclusion. You need to know, I got a whole different result. And here's the result I got. We apply standards to all this stuff. H, scale. We apply our ingenuity, our curiosity, and our creativity to things of every scale. The images you saw before that are super magnified are taken by very precision, high-power microscopes, but we go down to subatomic particles with electron microscopes, and I don't know what the current technology is that makes really small things visible. We know about atoms and protons, electrons, and neutrons, molecules, microscopic matter, tiny parts, things like a watch, and animals, plants, and machines roughly our size. Look at the words in blue. Giant animals, and giant plants, and giant machines, giant trees. We cut them down and we figure out how to make really big, long boards out of them. Giant animals, we capture them and we group them in zoos. Or if they're endangered, we figure out how to breed them so we don't lose them altogether from the planet. Do you see us subduing the earth in those blue words? We build enormous buildings and we send spaceships out to space. We're the only thing that does stuff on a much bigger scale than us, and the only thing that looks at things on a much, much, much tinier scale than us. Nothing else is even aware or even conceived of. It doesn't occur to anything else to do any of that. Education. This is another one that is just critical, and this is uniquely human. We recognize the need to pass everything down. This, I just can't overemphasize the importance of this. Whether we do a good job of it or we do a poor job of it, we are driven to make sure that the next generation knows the best information that we know. So we research infant and preschool ages. We have schools. We have vocational schools and training. We have colleges and universities. We have advanced degrees and doctorate degrees and research fellowships. We have experts on every subject, and we pass the expertise through generations. But here's the key. No generation of human beings starts from scratch. No generation starts from scratch. Every dog starts from scratch. A dog has instinct. He doesn't learn much from his mother. Most of them don't know who their mom was, past the suckling stage. We get them at 6 weeks. There's no more influence from the parents, and they're never going to develop anything like we do. They don't record anything. They don't pass it down. We do all this stuff, and we're driven to do it, and we're driven to keep specializing on this stuff. No generation starts from scratch. Every generation stands on thousands of generations that came before. Every generation begins where the last one progressed to and then continues on from there. We build and build and build and build, and we advance and advance and advance. That's what we do. We even have some idea that there are things we don't know. It occurs to us that there are things we don't know. Of course, this is what drives some of our creativity and our curiosity and maybe some of our stupider decisions. I'm not sure. But we have an idea that there are things we don't know. And we even have an idea what some of them are that we don't know. You understand what I'm saying? We know what the questions are that we can't answer. We may not know the answers, but we have an idea that there are questions that we don't know the answers to, and we'd like to figure them out. And this drives us to do all kinds of interesting things. That's J. Dogs. Let's take a look at something. I really think a dog is man's best friend. I'm one of those weird people. I like cats and I like dogs. I'm great with both of them. I kind of lean a little bit on the side of dogs, just a little bit. And we have 2 dogs. We had cats. We don't have any cats anymore. And I think they really are man's best friend. There's nothing else that just wants to follow you around and be where you are. They don't understand what you're doing. They don't care. They just want to be near you. That's all they want. And I think they're a gift from God. But what's the total advancement of dogs? What's the total structural advancement, technical advancement, architectural engineering advancement, musical advancement? That dog symphony doesn't sound any more in tune tonight than it did last night. Let me show you a graph. Here's the total advancement of dogs. There's Lassie. Lassie had a pretty good run. It was about 20 years. It was pretty good. There's Balto. Came out in 1995. There's Bolt, 2008. You know what the total advancement was of those dogs? Is what you see right there. They were pretty good, and then it dropped off because they didn't pass it on. They didn't pass it on to my dogs. They didn't get any of that stuff. In fact, you know what? You know who made Lassie smart? You know who made Balto? You know who made Bolt? Who made them? We did. We invented Lassie. She didn't really do most of that stuff. And by the way, a lot of the Lassies were he's, by the way. So we didn't know on black and white television. We did that. Now, is there anybody here who's old enough to remember one other dog that's missing? There, who said that? Okay, so I was giving this presentation to a group of older people, and one guy said to me, "You don't have Rin Tin Tin up there." I thought, I never saw Rin Tin Tin. I'm not that old. I added Rin Tin Tin, so there you go. There you go, Jan. Rin Tin Tin. I looked up. That's when Rin Tin Tin was. I guess he was pretty smart, too. Didn't have a very long run. Wasn't as long as Lassie. You with me? What the total advancement of dogs is? It's nothing. It's zero. I think dogs are great. I'm not denigrating dogs. I'm just telling you there's no advancement associated with dogs, apes, gorillas, hippos, elephants. When I was in elementary school, I remember learning in school, and I went to a good public school, that dolphins and maybe elephants were smarter than people. That's what I was told. Say it with me. Seriously? Are you kidding me? Seriously? Not a chance. They're not anywhere close. They're not in the same league. They're not in the same ballpark. They're not even in a ballpark. This is the total advancement of man. Looks something like that. And it keeps getting faster and faster and faster. But if you took any slice of human history and just chart the progress, it would look something like that. Are you with me? If I cut off from 0 to 4,000 and we just scaled it where that was the top, it would have that same shape. Everybody with me there? Because we keep advancing no matter what the time is, no matter what the state-of-the-art stuff is at the time, we keep pushing it upward and upward and upward because that's what we do. Any place we cut that graph up, that's what it would look like. I'm going to give you this caution again. What do I think the best evidence is for creation by our God? It's us. It's you. It's you. You are the best evidence for creation by our God because you're not like anything else. And the stuff you do is miles further along than anything else. We've been sold an awful bill of goods. We're not God. I'm not saying that. I'm not equating us with God. We're not little g gods. We're subject to God and we're sinful sinners. And we need redemption from our sin. But we are really cool. And there is nothing else like us. So let's wrap up. How many people did it take to build this room? First of all, look around in this room. Everything that you see in this room is man-made. Everything. Now, I'm not saying the wood didn't grow. The wood grew. But men cut it up and stained it and put it here. All these bricks were whatever the materials made on the ground. We didn't create the material, but we made the bricks. We made the mortar. We made the carpeting. We made the chairs. We made the ceiling and the metal structure that holds this together. We made the roof and the roofing systems. We did all that. How many people do you think it took to make this room? What would you guess? How many? Hundreds. How many? 1,000. I think you're closer. You know what I think? I think it was thousands, maybe millions. Do you know why? Because the people that made those cinder blocks aren't the first people that made blocks. The people that did this woodworking aren't the first people that did woodworking. And they didn't get there from scratch. They're standing on millions of other people that started all this stuff. It took, I'm going to throw out my thousands from up there. I think it took millions of people to build this room. Because the people who built it didn't start from zero. They started with all of the accumulated advances of people in all the trades that they're in that existed before them. People who developed wood and metalworking, people who made glass, brick, and plastic first. There's all kinds of plastic stuff. The carpeting and the seat cushions you're sitting on are all plastic. They're all plastic. People who harnessed electricity and light. People who pioneered the use of binary code. Everything you're looking at on these screens is ones and zeros. Everything is ones and zeros. I put it on a little flash drive and I bring it to Brent and he loads it up and that computer back there sends ones and zeros up here and this projector converts it to everything you're seeing. We did that. Does your dog think about ones and zeros? Mine doesn't. He does think about food or no food. I guess that's binary, food or no food. He's not thinking about ones and zeros. Countless people who developed all these technologies over millennia and the people who developed and advanced the trades to install them. Not just the people who developed the stuff, but the people who developed the ways to install them. That's what we do. We stand on the shoulders of everyone who's come before us. How could we even talk, if you're not convinced, how could we even talk about the stuff in the first half? The Big Bang, cells, biological systems, really cool, tiny and enormous things. How could we even talk about those? How do we even think about those? You know why? Because some other person thought about them and did research on them. How do we have the images? Because someone thought, this would be interesting to photograph. And then they photographed it and they put it out there where I could grab it off the internet. That's how we have them, because people gave them to us. People were inspired to say, I want to try that. I want to look at that. Because people have studied them. They write papers, they verify each other's work, they take photographs, they publish it, and it's available to all of us. Even before the internet, a card catalog, libraries, museums. We've done it since we've been. We've done it since people have been around. C, we are the best evidence for God. This is believers and non-believers alike. Believers don't have a corner on this. We are all created in the creative image of our God. Whether a person acknowledges that or not, they are created in God's image and they have these creative attributes. All of us are the best evidence for creation by our God. From every race, every nationality, every religion, and every background. Remember those pictures? Italy, Czech Republic, the UK, Mexico, Iran. A huge variety of nationalities and cultures. We're all curious. We don't have any lock on curiosity in the Western world or in the U.S. It's everywhere. And it's been everywhere since the beginning of time. We all reflect God's amazing creativity. All right, I'm going to promote a little television. I don't advise watching too much TV, but let me tell you something. I watch every episode of 60 Minutes. God's fingerprints are all over what they report on. Even if it's criminal activity, even if it's dysfunction, the creativity is there unmistakably. And they have all kinds of stories on there. I personally think it's excellent journalism. And every week, week after week, they have 3 stories that will show you human creativity in some form, fashion, or another. Shark Tank, another one of my favorite shows. America's Got Talent. Anyone else watch that? Will you see dysfunction on America's Got Talent? You bet you will. This year, they had a red-headed, bearded transvestite singer. Now, I'm not a big fan. I was kind of glad he got voted off. I was good with that. Does he show creativity? He does. Is it twisted? It is to me. I think it is. But do I see the image of God, twisted though it is? Do I see that person showing this kind of creativity? I absolutely do. And there are so many acts on that show that aren't twisted, that are bona fide, what we would call just good, clean, amazing creativity. I'm going to put a little plug in. The finals are next week, Tuesday. Next week, Tuesday, you'll see the top, 10 or 12, distilled out from all the others. You will see the best of the best next Tuesday night. You need to watch it because you will see God's amazing stamp on every part of that program, including the production value. The program is produced, it is top flight. Everything about it is produced at a top flight level, and you will see amazing human talent. I used to love Undercover Boss for the same reason. I saw humanity, I saw creativity, etc., etc., etc. I think you can't miss it. Surely we, people, are the best evidence for God. We're His highest creation. We're the only thing made in His image. And this is the point. We are the only thing that creates. Nothing else that God has created in turn creates. Yes, a beaver builds a dam. It always looks basically the same. There aren't high-rise dams. There aren't summer dams in the north, winter dams in the south. There aren't cottage dams and apartment, multifamily dams. There just aren't. Same thing, everything we do, we have disciplines and we advance and we keep on propelling ourselves forward. Nothing else holds a candle to us. You guys catching this with me? I don't ever want you to look at you the same again. I don't ever want you to look at us the same again. Only we create. Only we've dominated the earth. I'm telling you, we've been sold a real bill of goods. To us, to imagine that we got here by a series of accidents and this is how we got to be this cool is ridiculous. It is utter nonsense. We are created in the image of our almighty, omnipotent, omniscient, ultimately ultra-creative God. And that's why we do all this stuff. And who's our creator? John chapter 1. In the beginning was the Word, and He was with God in the beginning. Through Him all things were made, and without Him nothing was made that's been made. Chapter 1, verse 10 and 14. Though the world was made through Him, it says, it explains the world was made through Jesus Christ. If that's news to you, I'm here to tell you Jesus Christ is our Creator. That's very clear in the Scriptures. It says the Word became flesh and made His dwelling among us. So the Word was with God in the beginning, and through him all things were made, and he became flesh. And in him, in Colossians, it says, in him, in Jesus Christ, all things were created, things in heaven and things on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones, powers, rulers, or authorities, all things have been created through him and for him. He's before all things, and get this, in him all things hold together. I think in God and the very will of God, you have all the laws of physics and chemistry and gravity and light and all the other stuff we've talked about. In God, everything, by his sheer will, everything holds together. Now, who's our Creator? Jesus Christ. And what has he done for us? Let me leave you with this thought, and then I want to ask you guys a question. Jesus Christ is our Creator. He created everything to set this in motion. And what did he do for us? He died for us. He died to pay a sin debt we could never pay. Think about this. He's our Creator, and he created us knowing he would have to die for us. Who does that? Who does that? Our loving God and our loving Savior, that's who. That's who does that. He's worth worshiping, and he's worth giving homage to and acknowledging. What are the 3 things you wrote down? I want to do this pretty quickly, so rather than ask you what they are, how many people wrote down brush your teeth? Isn't that great? You know why? Because I said 3 things you do every day. They got to be pretty mundane, right? Let me ask you a question. Does anything else in creation brush its teeth? Does it? Does your dog brush his teeth? My dog needs to brush his teeth. Next time you brush your teeth, tonight and again tomorrow morning, I want you to think to yourself, holding your toothbrush, literally, I want you to think to yourself, nothing else in creation brushes its teeth. I am cool because I'm part of the only thing on the earth that even thought about making a toothbrush and toothpaste, and in all those flavors. Just think of it. Did anyone write down put on deodorant? You guys don't use deodorant? No one wrote down put down? I would have written that down. When you put your deodorant on tomorrow, I want you to think to yourself, nothing else uses deodorant. We people have figured out that we stink, and we need to do something about it. And we figured out how to market that and make money off of it on top of that. And we keep advancing deodorant, right? Anyone put down drink coffee? No, only one? Okay, what'd you guys put down? Let me stop on coffee real quick, because think about this. We grow coffee beans, we harvest them, we ferment them, and then we roast them, and then we ship them around the world, and then we grind them up, and we pour boiling water over them using umpteen different possible ways, percolators and brewers and French presses, I mean, you name it. We drink coffee. Next time, how many of you drink coffee? Next time you have a cup of coffee, I want you to think to yourself, I'm part of the only species that ever thought to do anything as cool as how we make coffee. It's simple, and we take it for granted every day because it's so easy. There's nothing simple about that process, and there's nothing accidental about it. And it's not an accident that we're the only thing that does something like that. What did you guys write down? If you didn't put down deodorant and coffee, what did you put down? What did we do? We breathe. Okay, so that's a natural function. Okay, what else? What was it? Eat. Let's talk about eating. Where do you buy your food? At the supermarket. Does anything else buy food at the supermarket? Does anything else create the food distribution systems? They figure out how to process meat safely, how to make milk into cheese, how to freeze foods that last for a long time or can them like we talked about. Nothing else does that. Any moms put changing diapers? I spoke to a group of young moms one time, and I said, how many of you put changing diapers? About half of them did. You know what? That's the bane of a young mom's existence, isn't it? You were there, I think, Stephanie. That's the bane of a young mom's existence. Young moms, I don't ever want you to change a diaper again without thinking to yourself, I'm part of the only species on earth that even thinks about making a diaper, much less why it's important or changing it. We're the only thing that does that. The most mundane things that we do, cleaning my glasses. Nothing else has glasses. Nothing else thinks about how to make our sight better. Nothing else thinks about cleaning them. If they had them, they wouldn't think about cleaning them. You guys with me? How many of you think I need medication? All right, I got a couple. All right. Thank you, Rick. I knew I could count on you. How many of you think, wow, that's where I want you leaving tonight? I want you to not leave here unaffected. I want you to leave here knowing that you are part of God's highest creation and that you are the best evidence for creation by our God. And if you're here, I'm not asking you to raise your hand, but if you're here and you're a skeptic or you're an unbeliever, I want to tell you something. You, as an unbeliever, you are the best evidence for creation by my God. And you are the best evidence for creation by your God, even if you don't know he's your God. You are the best evidence for his creation because of the stuff you do. Believer or not, it's the stuff we do. I've come to think that we are the very best evidence for creation by our God. I want to close our time in prayer. I'm running a little late. Thank you guys for hanging with me. Let me close our time in prayer. Heavenly Father, I'm so very grateful for each person who's here, for each soul who's here. And I pray that you wouldn't let anybody leave here, including me, unaffected by what you show us in your general revelation, by all the cool stuff we see every day. We walk right past it and we don't think it's amazing. We're too used to it. But God, it's all amazing. The stuff like plants and our dogs and animals and wind and clouds, all of it, it's all amazing. But help us, Father, never to believe the lie that we're the next thing beyond the apes or the gorillas. We're nothing like them. We have some physical resemblance to them, but what we do is worlds, it's galaxies apart from what anything else does, and it's because you've made us that way. You get all the credit, Father, and you get all the glory, but we're the evidence. We're so used to ourselves, we don't see it. We're not amazed by ourselves anymore. I pray that everybody in this room would be amazed by themselves and what people do, what our race, what our species does, because nothing else does anything like it. Jesus, you are our creator, and you are our redeemer. And you created us knowing you would die for us, to show your love for us, and to save us from a debt, to pay a debt we could never pay. We thank you for that, Jesus. We thank you so much for giving us all this evidence of the care and your interest in creation. We thank you for making us as cool as you have. It's in your name, Jesus, I ask the blessing on all these people and an awareness, a heightened awareness of how cool they are because of you, all because of you. It's in your name, Jesus, I ask this. Amen. Thank you for being here. Thank you.